Mic check, 1 2 1 2.
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music. Today we have in the studio Keith Mohr. Keith and I met, I want to say probably 10, 12 years ago when he was running Indie Heaven, which I believe he still has, and had a independent Christian conference going on down in Franklin, and I actually got to be on one of the panels. Keith has owned and operated a commercial recording studio, producing many custom projects, including mixing most of the top Christian artists and bands who performed at the world's largest Christian music festival, Creation Fest. The mixes were included in a PBS documentary, Message in the Music. In 1997, Keith founded IndieHeaven.com, an online resource for independent Christian artists, and grew it to be the leading organization of its kind, developing tools and community for members to self-publish and distribute their music that were ahead of its time. Keith relocated to Nashville, Tennessee in 2003 and created the CIA Summit Conference for independent Christian artists. In 2010, Keith created Inspire Song, a songwriter retreat held in the spring in Aspen, Colorado, with the next retreat slated for May 17, 18, 19 of 2019. In 2009, Keith created a popular songwriting open mic contest called Nashville Rising Song. The event is one of its kind in Nashville and attracts emerging songwriters of all genres hoping to be discovered and music industry personnel looking for the next big song. Keith also evaluates and finds opportunities for songs through his Nashville Song Pitcher service. He is the VP of Artist Relations at Nashville Artist Development, a label services development company serving artists and songwriters in their music aspirations. Keith, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, actually I do. I've done a lot.
Although we heard you got up at, 4:30 this morning.
Well, that's not normal. It's getting up early is against my religion.
Yeah.
People say early bird gets the worm, but I'm like, no, the late bird gets like all the other worms that are still up.
Yeah,
exactly. So I like to actually work late at night and sleep a little bit later.
You're working on a lot of projects, but obviously the one we want to talk about today is this open mic called Nashville Rising Star. You've been doing this for 9 years now.
Yeah, it's actually called Nashville Rising Song now, but I started as Nashville Rising Star.
Okay.
Some years ago. We actually called it something different. We started at a popular restaurant venue in Franklin, Tennessee, and went to the owner and said, hey, I got an idea for this open mic contest. We might be able to get some people in here to see these unknown artists and writers. So we did it and did it for a couple years there, and it was real popular. Took off. And so we moved over to another restaurant in that chain, and we were packing that out. And then finally we had to move out because they were like, we got to get other people in here, and you guys are packing it out. So we found a big venue in Cool Springs, and we moved over there for a couple years. And then we just keep moving it around, finding the place that, will value the event.
You're fine-tuning it.
Yeah, fine-tuning it, and also trying to make it better. So in the early days, we had the audience vote for their favorite song, and that's part of our deal. The audience gets to vote for their favorite song, and then we have music industry judges who vote for their favorite song at each of the open mic rounds. And in the early days, we used to hand out sheets of paper, and people would do it with pen and paper, and we'd have to count them up at the end, and that took a long time to get through 100 sheets of paper with 21 writers.
Right.
Now I've got it set where I do an online poll, and people can vote on their phone. And,
very cool.
Anywhere in the world, because we stream it live too. I have a URL called nrslive.com, and it just redirects to a Facebook event, and it makes it real easy to find. And so, people vote on their phone. I've got a system. I use a opinion poll, and, I populate the poll when I know who's playing it and who showed up. and people vote, and it's great because it locks people out from voting over and over and over again. And I can get some really good information on where people are voting from, and it's really good, for information gathering.
Yeah, and we talked about that before the show started. We follow that on our podcast, and you're finding out you have a listener audience that's global, and it's really cool, and it also makes you realize that it's more than just Nashville, or it's more than just Los Angeles or New York or whatever.
Yeah. Well, right now, NRS Live, it redirects to the live page on my NashvilleRisingSong.com website, and I do that. I embed the Facebook event in there. I could drive them right to Facebook, but then I won't really know who's. I mean, they do give you some stats, but I like to drive them to my domain. I want to get people into my world.
You want the demographics.
Yes, so
exactly.
I can, follow up. We don't make anybody sign up to vote or anything. We don't put them through any hoops because they just won't do it. Now, if I could figure out how to monetize the vote, that would be really cool. I'd split it with the artists like 70-30, put your money where your vote is. It's $1 to vote. If I could figure that out, that'd be really cool.
That would be.
Because then the artists and songwriters will be making some income, too, for being on the show.
Which is something that, we're all seeing what's going on in this industry now is that, finally Congress is starting to step in and help these songwriters. And
I saw that.
Yeah, with the Monetization Act. And, that is a tough thing for songwriters these days. They're not making money like they used to.
Well, they're not. I mean, I know the gal that wrote Troubadour for George Strait, and she said, man, I wrote that song. I was able to buy my house.
Yeah.
And now we've got, people writing numerous number ones who are still, maybe serving coffee somewhere. Or, it's not like it used to be. And so this Modernization Act is really, really cool, but I'd like to take it one step further. I'd like to say, let's get the government out of that business altogether. I don't think they need to even be in it.
No.
And let's let the free market determine the value of a song. I'm really for limited government intrusion.
Well, you're not alone in this room, so we get it. Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, they don't tell a plumber how much they make every time they turn their wrench. So I don't understand why they're in on that part.
Well, not only that, but it's also laws that were enacted back in the piano player roll days.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It had a purpose back then, but it doesn't anymore.
No. And I'm glad that they did something. At least it's a start. But I'd like to, just say, get out of the business and let people determine what they're going to
let the entrepreneur step in.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I know that Spotify's the big boy out there, quote unquote, might be taking advantage of people. I don't know. My jury's out on that. I say, look, it's promotion, not distribution. And how much do you make per person who might listen to your song on the radio in New York City, on a one-time spin? That per person rate is probably a lot less than a per stream rate on Spotify. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that.
And I don't think that information's going to be coming forth anytime soon anyway. At least not
no,
for
there
Spotify.
are some things that are proprietary for a reason, like breakage in a record label for MP3s.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, which really makes sense.
So one of the things I loved is you sent me when we were talking about the Nashville Rising Song, these open mic tips, and I want to talk about that because some of it, and you say in this that it's meant to be tongue in cheek. However, as Debbie and I were reading it, it was kind of like there is a lot of truth in this.
There is. I mean, I try to have good bedside manner because I feel like I'm a little league coach. It's what I've always done. The 25 years I've done this. I think we're similar in many ways. Although you've had a lot more industry experience with the industry.
Only because I lucked out.
Than me. I never did. I never had that opportunity. So I kind of feel like I'm always been cycling around it and circling around it, but yet an artist is an artist, and I said wrote this the other day on Facebook. I said anybody who's a somebody started as a nobody.
Exactly.
So everybody starts as a nobody, and why some quote unquote make it and some don't. It's a number of factors, as you know. There's that intangible it factor.
We've always said on the podcast, there's really three components, and it's talent,
right,
and it's opportunity, and it's luck.
That's exactly right.
And two of those you can control. The third one you just got to hope for.
Yeah, I think if you talk to A&R guys at labels and you'll talk about a certain song, they'll say we never thought that song would actually make it hit big. Something happened. They don't even know.
I know that when I worked at the label, we had gone through probably 4 or 5 Tim McGraw songs
right
before we got to his first big hit. and that song was voted pretty much unanimously.
Least
not
likely
gonna
to
work.
succeed.
Yeah, this one's not going to work, and it turned out to be his first big hit.
You never know what'll
Yeah.
resonate with the masses. That's why, people at labels, I mean, they have focus groups and they test, and it's important. You're putting a lot of money into it.
Yeah.
It ain't a kid's game, that's for sure.
But we keep knocking the crystal ball on the floor and breaking it, so
Yes.
it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about these tips, because
Yeah.
I got to tell you, these are great, and I'm going to kind of go over some of these because I
Yeah.
do like some of the things you say.
Yeah.
Your first one is tuned in or tuned out. These are just real simple, basic, elementary steps that a person needs to take. When you talk about, there's nothing worse than making everyone wait for you to get your guitar in tune, especially, as you say, for 5 minutes.
Right.
It's like, I'm sorry, is this the song? Is this how you're entertaining?
Yeah,
this?
it's called tuning.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy my first song and your time's up. But these tips are really specifically for songwriters who would be playing either at an open mic or around, like the rounds that we see in Nashville. A lot of times. So our event tends to be really quick. Like, let's get them up, let's get them done, because we're trying to get done in a couple hours. 21 writers, 2 hours. That's quick.
Okay, so 21 songwriters in
Yep.
2 hours. How many songs does each songwriter get?
They
to
just
perform?
get one,
They
at,
get
an
one.
At the open mic prelims, yeah. So this series has 10 of those open mic rounds where anybody can come out. So we do rounds of 3, just like a typical round that you might see, at any one of the places, Bluebird, Commodore, anywhere. And so we're getting them up there and getting them line checked really, really fast. But we've had times where, you get up there and it's taken forever because their guitar's not in tune, or, God forbid, the battery is dead. And I talk about that in this thing too.
Yeah,
It's
sounding like a big muff distortion.
Yeah,
pedal.
or
Yeah.
like a Vitamix,
Yeah.
Like if your guitar sounds like a Vitamix, there's a problem. And when we've seen it happen a number of times. So these tips are really geared toward, if you're a songwriter and you're going out to an open mic, you got to have your act together, because people are really making snap judgments on you really fast. You know what I mean? They're like 2-year-olds who just snorted a 2-pound bag of Skittles and drank a 12-pack of Red Bull. They're quickly to judge. Give them 10 seconds and they're tuned out of your tune.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what you want. You want them tuned in.
The next one is probably my biggest bone of contention whenever a songwriter or an artist gets up on stage, and that's that checking 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, if maybe you're the first guy, you can get away with that, but if you're third, fourth, fifth on songwriter or artist, it's been done. It's been tried.
It just makes you look like amateur.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Again, people are, I have a saying, and I do a lot of stuff in the Christian world, so I got to watch my tongue, but I'm a type A, business guy, so we like to let it fly, but I say that people are like dumb as sheep. They don't know any better. They're trying to formulate their opinion, so don't give them any reason to come up with the opinion that you're not ready for prime time.
Right.
So the checking 1, 2, 3 is just a sense of nerves. And so at an open mic or anything like that, really you just want to make sure you get your guitar line checked and make sure that guitar is working. And that's an issue too, because I'll see people get up on stage, they'll be finger picking like Stairway to Heaven, then they get up there and play their song and they're strumming like Highway to Hell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't
and then
the
the
same.
sound guy's scrambling around trying to pull it back.
God bless the sound person. I did my own sound for the event for a number of years, and there's nothing more challenging to make 21 guitars sound good when you have literally 10 seconds.
Especially if some of those guitars don't sound good.
They don't. We won't mention a brand by name, but there's a certain guitar named after a famous artist that the lower versions of it have some issues. Now, thank God we are sponsored this series by Martin Guitars and Gretsch, and we really, really love both those lines of guitars.
This is a sidebar. Let's go in that direction for once. That's the important thing. If you're going to be a songwriter, back in the days when I was a kid, you could go to Thrifty's or Sears or Montgomery Ward's and buy guitars.
Montgomery Ward's.
And there's a reason those guitars were there, because they were just really pieces of firewood,
right?
But it was a good starter for little Johnny who wanted to play, and it wasn't going to cost mom and dad more than $50.
Of course.
But if you're going to be a serious, aspiring songwriter, musician, artist, insert whatever, make sure you have quality equipment.
Absolutely. Can you imagine somebody thinking that they're going to go out and win the Indianapolis 500 in a I don't know,
In a
in a
Pinto?
Nissan Murano.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I mean, they're not going to win it. Now, they can get around the racetrack and they can enjoy the process and wave to their family in the grandstands. They ain't going to win the race.
Yeah.
So really, you are in a race. You know, as an artist or a songwriter, there is tons of competition. I think what people get a little screwed up is that they come to Nashville because mom and dad and close family and friends said, you're going to make it big. And then they come and they realize they're just one of many, many, you know, okay artists or writers, but okay doesn't make it in this town.
As I say, there's a lot of small fish in a very deep pond.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
why, you know, I always tell people, man, stay where you're at. Become like the whale in the fishbowl instead of coming to Nashville and being the minnow in an ocean.
That guitar becomes part of your brand. It becomes part of your
Certainly
trademark.
does.
Debbie and I went to an event Sunday night with Tom Sabella, who's on the show with us on occasions, and some songwriter. And these folks, you would look at them, you wouldn't recognize them, but then they start playing the hits that they've written.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going, oh, yeah, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
great. And, you know, the first songwriter that got up there had the most beautiful Gibson acoustic guitar, and it just sounded
Was it a
like-
hummingbird,
it
maybe,
was,
or
I didn't get close enough
mockingbird?
to look, but it
One
was
of those
like
birds.
silk. It was so beautiful.
Well,
Stayed in tune.
yeah.
You know, and then it was passed around to different songwriters.
Yeah, and probably it sounded good for everybody because
Yes.
they're at a professional level.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing we do see a lot at the open mic contest is that there's all kind of varieties of guitars. But one of the coolest things I ever saw was a girl who I've known her for a number of years. She's very active in Nashville and goes out and plays everywhere, and she's really into the color blue. Everything about her is blue. That's her brand, and she's got a blue guitar, which is really cool with her name up the neck. You know,
yeah.
very smart branding. You know, she always wears blue. Everything's blue, and it's really neat. I saw she recently got married, and of course her gown and her groom were all dressed in blue, and because that's who she is.
Yeah.
Very, very smart.
And of course your third item, which is we talked about, was, you know, guitar, what guitar, and we touched base on that. But you brought up something that's important. Make sure when you go to any open mic night that your instrument, or at least your case, you know, has your name on it.
Yeah, mark your case because every guitar case looks pretty much the same. And we've had guitars mixed up before, not on purpose, but just they all look the same. And, you know, at our contest, we might have 30 to 50 songwriters come out some weeks. And those are a lot of guitars laying around, you know, and it's really easy to misplace your guitar.
We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to chat some more with Keith Mohr, who is the creator, founder, producer, head honcho, chief cook, and bottle washer of Nashville Rising Song. It used to be called Nashville Rising Star.
Right.
And we've got a whole lot more things to talk about here. And you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Alex Heike, and you are listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, this is Vinny Ribas, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music. In the studio today is Nashville Rising Song founder, creator, whatever else we want to insert there. Director,
MC now.
Yeah, the guy's done it all. Trust me.
I'm a quality control
Yeah.
freak. What can I say?
That's okay, because I think we need those in this business. Keith Mohr's with us. Keith, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah, I love this one too. And when I read this, I went, you know, this is one of the things that I hate when artists get up on the stage.
Right.
Is there not only is there no need to introduce your song as this is a new song I just wrote last night, but you know what I hate is when the artist gets in there and tries to prompt the audience to do something. If you're a good enough entertainer,
Right.
you don't have to say, okay, now you can applaud. You're not working the audience right if you have to do that.
Yeah, it's usually you don't see that kind of thing happening at an open mic, but it does happen at our contest on occasion where someone will say, okay, there's a spot in this song where I want you guys to clap along, and people just look at them like they got three heads. They're not going to clap along. They're just going to stare at you and go, that guy's really weird. They're going to make a determination that you've crossed a line.
Yeah.
This barrier. And so,
what is that comfort zone? And you as a songwriter, the artist, need to know what that is.
Yeah, and you don't want to make people nervous. You don't. I used to tell Christian musicians who were so nervous to be on stage, you don't want people praying for you to make it through your song. That's not the kind of ministry you want to do. So they're praying for you just to get through it before you either throw up or pass out.
Yeah.
So obviously get up there and get into the song as quick as you can. I know it's nervous, you get nervous and all that stuff, but man, if you're up on stage, that is your time to shine. It's not your time to be nervous.
I love this one line that you put in there, and it says, if you're a Christian songwriter, don't ever say this is a Christian song. This is the part I love. Songs are not Christians. People are Christians who write songs. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's exactly, because you know what? There may be some people in the audience that aren't of the faith.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, you're putting them on the edge of their seat a little bit.
Oh yeah, they're going to first off they're going to determine that you're crazy, because they don't know, they're not there.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I say sing your song and let them figure out what your lyrics are about, and they're going to put two and two together, because even though I said earlier that people are generally dumb as sheep, they're not completely stupid sheep. They're just ignorant. They don't know any better. They're trying to formulate that opinion by gathering information.
But you go back and you look like back to the 70s when the Doobie Brothers did Jesus Is Just All Right.
Yeah.
They're that worked. And then
Sure.
Mercy Me with I Can Only Imagine, which crossed over into mainstream.
Oh, yeah.
They're great faith-based songs that work in the mainstream world.
Yeah.
Let the audience determine the same thing.
Yeah, I read an interview recently with Larry Norman, and he said, my songs are not Christian songs. They're not, some of them are Christian songs. Every one of them are, because they're coming out of me, and it's just simply from a worldview standpoint.
Right.
It's not, some people say it's a lyrical content, you can tell what a country song is because it's either about pickup trucks or girls in tight jeans or drinking.
Yeah.
They do have their subject matter that make them part of that genre, but generally, a song can be just about life is hard, but there's hope, and that could be all it needs to be. So I just say let your song speak for itself, and
you're gonna attract your audience with whatever song you have.
That's exactly right. At an open mic, let people figure it out. Just make sure that when you're setting your song up at an open mic, you might want to give a one sentence setup, man, I wrote this song about my grandma. She was sick, and I miss her so dearly. She's been gone for a few years. It's all about me and my grandma sitting on our back porch on the swing.
Yeah.
Bam, and start your song.
Unless you're the fifth songwriter to share that story.
Well,
that night.
Sometimes you have to adjust at an open
and then
mic.
you got to change up.
You do, and we've had people at the contest change up like right up there, and seeing good results. So you just got to be smart.
Yeah. I used to be out on the road with Eric Durant's, and he would open up for Lady Antebellum and Jason Aldean on the CMT tour back in 2008, 2009. And there were some nights that he knew, and here's the set list. It's already printed out. It's all set. These are the 8 or 9 songs that guys are going to do. But they get into 2 songs or 3 songs of the show, and something's not working.
Right.
They've got to adjust.
Yeah. Well, again, you got to read your audience and be smart. And at an open mic, generally, catchy songs that are faster are better than slow ballads that really, unless they're extremely well written, and that they really can move the heart. Generally, it's better to do something a little more up tempo.
I also like where you say on the next item, keep it short and sweet. Songs that are 3 minutes and under. First of all, that's what radio likes.
Sure.
In fact, you said at one point you think the next big thing in music might be micro songs that are about a minute long. I will tell you right now, radio would probably love that, because then they could say, hey, 10 in a row and still get plenty of advertising in. But we're not there yet. It is, as you said, don't do a 7-minute song with a 45-second intro. Get into it because you're there to entertain the audience, not to show off your ego.
Exactly. We have one industry judge that comes out, and he's syndicated radio personality. He's got a show now that's syndicated and online and also on terrestrial radio. Man, and the first thing he does, he whips out his phone and starts his timer. And he'll set it right. I'll be sitting right next to him, and we'll be looking at that thing. If it goes past 4 minutes, he's like, ain't going to win. He's like, ain't going to win.
Yeah.
I'm looking for radio songs, So radio songs, as you know, need to be, 3:30, I guess, or under.
Or less, yeah.
Or less. But you should be really into first verse by 10 to 15 seconds, and your first chorus now between 45 seconds. It used to be 60, right?
Yeah.
Now it's more like 45.
Well, and that's because you have a listening audience that has a lot of choices. The menus become a lot bigger, especially if you're starting to get on Spotify or Sirius XM. There's a lot of buttons to push to take you onto something if you don't catch them within the first 8 to 10 bars.
That's right. And your opening line of your song needs to be extremely strong. So a lot of people will they'll be like veg writing, and people are trying to figure out what's going on, and nothing's pointing toward the hook. You're all over the map, So you got to be real focused on that opening bit of that first verse, getting people's attention to set them up for that hook, and you got to be there quick.
Let's talk a little bit about change will do you good, and we did talk about that. You want to make sure that your song is really well thought out and crafted, and don't do it on stage.
Yeah, that's not the time probably to rewrite your song. You want to be thinking about that. I always tell songwriters, go ahead and listen to the top 10 songs on the whatever chart you want to listen to, country chart if you're a country writer. Let's first look at the lyrics. Let's see what they're saying. How are they saying it? What's the structure of the song? And then take and actually start with make a graph. I'm a little bit nerdy, but I like this kind of stuff where you kind of take a piece of graph paper, whatever, in the beginning of the song, and you mark it out and you write down the times of each one of those sections in the song. Verse 1, chorus, verse 2, chorus 2, bridge, chorus, chorus, out, or whatever it is. Go ahead and mark that down. Now, go back and listen to the song again and kind of close your eyes and just take your pen and start drawing, where's it taking you emotionally, and find out where that emotion's coming from, because, they have a saying that the way to a person's wallet is through their heart, right?
It is. And you bring that up, one of the things we've talked about, when people go to a concert and you put on a great show, there's a merchandise table there for a reason. That becomes an emotional purchase.
Sure.
And CDs, music, whether it's a download or a stream, that's incorporated in that.
Of course, people buy stuff because they want to show support to the artist, not necessarily because they like the merch. They just want to show support.
Yeah.
So they're thinking that the artist gets 100% of the merch sales. Well, usually not now.
Usually not.
Not now. Not
they got a check in
deals.
the beginning, and
yeah.
that's it.
So,
but if the song is emotional and it carries an impact and it hooks you.
Yeah, we find at the open mic contest, out of 21 songs that are shared any given night, that probably 70% of them are sung with the exact same strum pattern. And that's what I'm talking about. Music's like chicken. It's got parts, right? So the people will strum the same way because that's what they're used to hearing, but they'll strum the same way through an entire 7-minute song. You know what I mean? And by the time you get into 1 minute, you're looking at your watch going, I wish these people would just get off stage.
And you brought up something, I think it's important, that when you said people will start looking at their phones and posting how boring your song is to all their Facebook friends. And I love this part. You don't want that kind of viral marketing, right? You don't. And that's what we have to keep in mind, that it's an open world out there now with smartphones.
Oh, yeah.
Anything and everything can wind up on YouTube or Facebook.
Well, we broadcast our whole event, man, and we've had some crazy things happen. Last week we had an interesting thing happen. It's never happened before, and I was waiting for it for 9 years, and by golly, it happened, and that was that a writer who had performed earlier in the night did not like a song that was performed later on the night and let the writer know it
on stage?
Out loud.
Oh.
And, ran up to the stage and then grabbed his guitar and bolted out of the venue. And I was like, that guy is never coming back. So you don't want to do that because things are documented, and now everybody knows, what a Yahoo you are.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of gets in the way.
Yeah, not wise.
We're going to take another little break. We still got more to talk about here, and then I do want to talk about how songwriters can get involved in the Nashville Rising Song competition here. So we're in the studio with Keith Mohr talking about probably one of the most interesting subjects out there, which is not only writing good songs, but getting on stage and performing them the correct way. Yeah. So this is Bob Bender, and you're listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Brian Nutter with Nutter Guitars, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Wow, I just joined the Music Starts Here community. This is a truly hidden gem for anyone in the music business. Whether you live in Nashville or anywhere else in the world, Music Starts Here is like a GPS for your music career. This is the place to be if you want to get advice and direction from some seriously talented musical people who have been where you want to go. Music news, events, and a great big community with resources for artists, songwriters, musicians, studio and tech, along with music business advice from pros in the industry, all on one site? Make sure you get your free profile now. Go to www.musicstartshere.org. That's musicstartshere.org.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of the Business Side of Music. In the studio, Keith Mohr, who every week does Nashville Rising Song. And during the break, we were talking just a little bit, some advice you gave a songwriter.
Yeah, we do see a lot of songwriters come through. 21 a night, 10 weeks, that's 210 writers, and I've been doing it this is our 33rd series, so do the math. That's a lot of writers, and I see a lot of the same things happen.
That's almost as much as American Idol.
Yeah, it is. And so we had a writer come through, and he's played more than one time. He's a great guy. I think he's pretty talented. I don't think he realized how he was coming off on stage. So first thing I did was I messaged him. I said, do you mind if I give you some advice? Because I generally will not give unsolicited advice because nobody likes that.
Right.
So he said, sure, man. I said, well, first off, I think you're really, really good at what you do. You just need some tweaks. When you're up there in a round and you're like the third writer in the round, you need to sit up and get up on the edge of your chair, and straighten up your back. You kind of slouch back in your chair and you kind of just look forward like you're zoned out. You're not engaging the other writers ahead of you. You're basically telling people that you really don't care about them. And that's not good because they're already formulating an opinion about you before you open up your mouth. So get engaged and kind of engage those writers and kind of, act like you're awake. And that's really, really important. And he was like, I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm like, you are. So get up. I want to see you come back. And next time I want to see you do this, And that was just one thing. And the other thing was that he didn't talk clearly in the microphone. He kind of mumbled. And he said something like, Nashville's a country town, and I don't write a lot of country, but I figured I might as well write one. Well, what a great way to set up your song. You're basically saying you don't like your song, so, and you're mumbling in the mic, and so people are already going, this dude's a yahoo. And you don't want to give people any reason to not like you because you remember Tom Jackson, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Love Tom. He says 97% of people will want to like you and 3% hate everything.
Yeah, no matter what.
No matter what. But you got to give those 97% a reason to like you.
Yeah.
He didn't realize he was doing that either. So these are all revelations to him. And I said, now, when you're setting up your song, keep it short and sweet and talk clearly. When you're playing your song, act like you're enjoying it. You kind of look like you were just exhausted and beat. And I don't know if you were looking for sympathy votes or what, but you won't get them. People are just determining that you are amateur.
And you talk about that in Us or Them.
Us or Them, right.
And that, it's one thing that's so important, one of the many things that's so important, is that eye contact with the audience.
Yes.
And you say this, a lot of times they'll have their eyes closed.
Oh, yeah.
90% of the time.
It's because they're scared to death.
Yeah. And we get it. Then look beyond the audience.
Yeah.
Or look around. Find different people. Find your comfort zone. Find a comfort person. Maybe you have a friend there and look at them.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. If there's a certain part of a song that moves you and,
sure.
But that's part of the engagement. That's drawing the audience in. Don't be afraid to show emotion, but also don't cut off your audience.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot because the people are thinking that it's about them, and really, I say, look, man, the role of the creative is to impact culture and to serve culture. So you're serving out your songs, and so you don't want to serve them like a waiter who just throws down a meal at a table and says, there it is. You want to say, man, this is like a great meal. You want to have a certain type of delivery mechanism going on, and you have to practice that. That doesn't come easy. But for writers that I've seen do that, we've got one young writer we've been working with on this hard, and he did a set at an event not too long ago, and he started putting him into practice, and people just seemed to respond so much better, and he felt so much better about himself. And I told him, I said, dude, if you act like a professional, people are going to think you're professional, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So start acting like one.
I want to jump back.
Yeah.
We kind of skipped over one here, but I think this is important. The banter around her, and you talked about the one songwriter who jumped up on stage and basically
that was a no-no.
Chewed out. But,
Yeah.
it is the banter in between songs. I think if you have a story to tell it. Otherwise, move on.
Yeah, and what I'm talking about there in that tip would be at a regular round where you've got 3 writers up there, you're one of 3, or there's 3 writers up there that know one another. And this happens a lot in town where somebody will book a round and they'll bring a couple buddies up.
Right.
And they'll just start kibutzing between themselves, totally ignoring the audience, just going on, and usually it's girls, and the girls will be talking about their hair and their nails or whatever. And the people are just sitting there going, hey, we're out here, you knuckleheads.
You've disconnected from the audience.
Totally disconnected. I don't know why they do that. Or they'll get up there and they'll rant about a former love interest.
Which Taylor Swift can get away with that, but no one else.
Right, that's what I talk about in the article. She made a whole career about it. But generally, you want to engage the audience. I've seen writers who would do that, and they have a tip jar out, and they'll get tips, and they're like, wow, tonight was great. I don't know why. And I'm like, let me tell you why. You actually paid attention to your audience.
Yeah.
You served your audience.
And I think the audience is there, at least from my perspective. When I go to hear a songwriter, I want to hear songs. You want to impress me? Do 3 songs in a row.
Yeah.
Just knock them out, because then I'll go, first of all, this guy's here to entertain me. B, he's got some versatility here.
Right.
He's got some great songs. And the last but not least, he's kept my attention. He's kept the pace moving enough to where, okay, you've got me. I want to learn more about you.
Yeah, at the final round of Nashville Rising Song, we have 4 finalists that have been whittled down through the whole competition, and they each do 4 songs. And we used to put them all on stage in a big round, 4 writers, and they did 1 song each and went around and around and around. Then I got an idea, like, no, let's put them up on stage one at a time, and they'll do all 4 songs in a row. And that's actually their time. They can actually now show a little bit about who they are. Now, this is not about being an artist. That's why I changed the name from Nashville Rising Star to Nashville Rising Song. It wasn't about like how good they sang or how good they played or how good they did set up a song. It was about the song. So that's why I changed the branding about a year ago. But it's really cool, though, to see how they then you start seeing a little bit of how they're doing it, and that's great. It does factor in, even in a songwriting competition, of how you deliver the song. But it's not about that, per se.
Let's talk a little bit about songwriters finish first.
Oh, nice songwriters finish.
I'm sorry, let me try that again.
Yeah.
Nice songwriters finish first.
Yeah, and Nashville is so full of writers, and what I have seen is that songwriters who think more than just themselves, think more about community, and you'll run into them, and you're like, man, now this person gets it, because Nashville is a relationship town. And it's all about relationships and building relationships and cultivating them. And if you're nice to people, they're going to invite you in to be part of what they're doing, So it's really important to do that.
How does a songwriter get involved in this?
Okay, I know we're coming to the end. We could go on for hours.
I've still got some more things to talk about.
All right, we can go on for hours about this. If you just go to NashvilleRisingSong.com, and we have a sign-up tab right there. You can go on there and learn how it works. The way that it works really is that you can sign up ahead of time and then come out to the event and check in with me. It's really not about who signs up ahead of time, though. It's about who shows up at the event.
Right.
So we'll have people walk in off the street and go, hey, I heard about this thing, man, and I don't know who they are. And so they'll sign up. And a lot of times, those are the ones winning the rounds, man. Those are the ones that they found out about it. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to win this thing. And they're usually the better ones.
And what's involved in that when they win?
Well, when they win, if they win a prelim round, they get some perks of winning that through our prize partners that we have. So each level has different types of prizes that they get dependent upon what our prize partners provide. Yeah. So they might be able to, I think each one of our prelim round winners get a free song submission to Nashville Cool, which is a songwriter retreat, an invitational songwriter retreat here in town that happens a couple times a year. They don't have to pay to submit. And that's separate
from Inspire Song?
It's separate from Nashville Rising Song, yeah.
Okay.
It's totally separate. These are just partners that we have.
And this is also separate from your event in Aspen, Colorado?
It is. It's totally separate. Yeah. This is these are just Nashville Cool was run by Nancy Deckant, and she was with Riser Music, and she writes with a lot of people, and she has an invitational retreat now that she does with 3 hit writers and an industry pro for a whole weekend, and 6 writers can come to it, but they have to submit. You can't just show up to tour. So anyway, they get that. They can submit 4 songs for the price of one to the Smoky Mountain Songwriter festival contest that they do. And then if they get into the finals, then they get stage time at that festival, which is great because that festival is really a great festival. And then our grand prize winner gets like the Gretsch guitar this series. They get their song produced by Nashville Artist Development, which is a company I'm involved with. So we produce their song for them. They get a lyric video done, professional lyric video done through one of our prize partners. So there's stuff, there's like people that do certain things that I've met over the years that they love to be a part of it,
So there's some great things for them.
There are.
Yeah.
Career advancing things. I mean, we've had people come through it who got signed, to a deal. It wasn't the only thing that they had going on, but it was just a little feather in their cap. We had a kid, Kaylin Green, won, I think 3 or 4 years ago. He got signed in Warner Chapel, and I keep seeing him out on tour with Billy Currington, which is cool, and they're trying to break him still. And we've had other people come through the event that weren't winners that moved on to great things, like Kelsey Ballerini came through it early on when we were in Franklin, like 8 or 9 years ago, I think it was, and nobody knew who she was. We hooked one girl
and
up.
she's playing the Grand Ole Opry tomorrow night, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
You never know. That's the thing, is you never know. Anybody who's somebody was a nobody at one point.
Yeah.
So, and we had one girl who came through probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It might have been 3 years ago, actually. She was a really good singer, and my stepdaughter sings with Miley Cyrus. She's been with Miley for 8 years. And Miley was like, can you find me another background singer? The one girl who you're partnered with, she can't make it out. So she came to us, which was great because her mama, we're married.
Right.
And so we said, we know this one girl that came out to the contest. She's really good. So we hooked them up. And she auditioned, and lo and behold, she got the gig. And she went out on that crazy Miley Cyrus Bangers tour with the crazy tour. But she got to sing in Wembley Stadium, Sydney Opry House, all over the world with Miley.
Yeah, and think about how that looks on your resume now when
Holy
you go
cow.
to the next gig. Yeah.
That all happened because she came out.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things I like. It's not that we're making money off that. It's not like we're getting 10% of everything she made, because I don't really do management style that way. It's like, I'll help you, just pay me an hourly rate, whatever, for my time, or take me out to lunch or whatever. I don't usually get a percentage.
Guys like you and me, we're worth at least a lunch.
We are worth at least a lunch.
Yeah.
And that is a tip for anybody out there who's a songwriter. If you invite somebody out to get some advice, please pick up their tab.
Yeah.
And maybe, throw them a little $50 bone or something. People are professionals. So, you get it as I get it.
Yeah.
We get people all the time asking us for stuff, and we have to guard our time, because time is really more valuable than money at this time.
It really is. And there's only so many hours in the day.
Especially at our age.
Yeah, definitely. Amen.
Where life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer the end it gets, the faster it spins.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah,
Appreciate
well,
it.
hey, we're seasoned.
Yes, we are.
We're like a jar, slap your mama.
So how can people find you?
All right. Well, gosh, they can find me on Facebook. I'm an old guy, so I'm still on Facebook, but also I'm on Instagram and all that stuff. Just go to Facebook, look up Keith Mohr, Mohr, and you can find me on NashvilleRisingSong.com. And, if you want to go check out my songwriter retreat, that's inspiresong.com. Just find me on Facebook. All my stuff is linked over there.
Great. Keith, thanks for being on the show. This has been great.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I just hope that folks are interested in what we're doing. So.
Hey, they're listening to us from all over the world.
That's
so
exciting.
Great,
I know it's been going on for a while, so you're doing a great job.
We love it. Thank you. All right, thanks for being on.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, you got it. As a listener, you know that the Business Side of Music podcast is free. But in order to keep it running, consider becoming a patron of our show. You can do this by going to our Patreon page on our website, which is www.businesssideofmusic.com, and click on Support the Podcast button. When you become a patron of our podcast, you'll have access to material that you won't be hearing on our regular shows, insight from industry leaders that is designed for our patron members, and have the ability to purchase the Business Side of Music merchandise that you can find on our website at a discount.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. Co-producer for the show is Vinny Ribas. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.